The next step is we want to get started on our borders. Now what I've done is I've gone through and I've taken out the maker's marks in the area that we're working in, and I've also cleaned up the map a little bit. Now I'll go ahead and save so that we can make sure that that's all saved out. Our streets we want locked out, so we want to make sure that we have the little lock button on. Alright, so now our territory is going to extend out from Hallettsville 957 across 196 down 340. It's going to follow this 340 down to 7790 and back up again. So what we want to do is the first border that we make is obviously going to be a blue border. So we want to be on the blue level, and then we're going to use the Bezier Curves tool. So we're going to click on that, and we just start right here in Hallettsville. So we click to start, and we're just going to click on each of the little corners following the road. Now if you notice, you've got a little line that stretches out, and you're where the little cross is. So go ahead and click, just kind of follow the road as detailed as you want to be. Don't put too many lines, because then it makes life a little difficult. And these straight ones, you can always add lines later. But most of these are pretty easy, and you can just do lines. But if you want to get fancy, here's another trick for you. You can see where this curve is right here. What we want to do is we want to stop before we get to the curve, so the curve is nice and even. So we can click here, and now we've got our line, and we want to go across this way and click and hold and then pull down. And you notice that it's a spline, and so this makes it a nice rounded curve if you like to do that. And then of course you can even it up with the road right here, and it makes a nice perfect line. And then for the other end of it, you can just click right back on your street and then do the same thing again, and as you go you can make some pretty nice little curves. And you have to be careful, because sometimes you see like this one, it automatically curves, so you don't want to curve it again. Or you can just go back to making straight straight lines. Really, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But as we get back into the town right here, we can see that we're getting back to our little square, little bounding box. So we just click in that, and that finishes up the curve. You can see how it highlighted, and so now our curve is done. Then we want to change our curve a little bit, because it's black, it looks like a road, and what we really want it to do is to be a border in color. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a couple more tools over here. We're going to go to Object, Fill and Stroke, and that's going to change the color of our lines. So the fill, we don't want any fill, so we want it on the X. The stroke, we want this one to be blue, so we're going to slide this little slider all the way over to blue. And if you notice, our line turned blue. Now we're going to make it bigger. We need to go to Stroke Style, and so see the width here. We want the width to be a little bit bigger, so let's try 5. And that got a little bit bigger, but it's still not big enough. Let's try 9. That looks pretty good. That's a nice border, but it's quite bright. So we're going to drop the opacity down to about 25%. What that does is that makes a nice see-through baby blue. And if you can see those maker's marks in white behind here. You'll have to fix those later. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to make this border fit inside the territory. So instead of pulling points, which we can do with the node button, we'll do a lot of this work a little bit easier. So let's go up to Object. We're going to go to Transform, and we're going to actually scale this thing down so that it does most of the work for us. So we'll go to Scale, and we want to scale proportionately so that it it scales in all directions the same way. and we're going to try, let's try 97%. And you click in this one, and it evens them up so that they're the same, and then we click apply, and we look at what we've done. Now that's all right, but not really what we want. So we can come back up here to edit, undo scale, come back over here and change it. Let's try 96 and apply again. Now that's pretty good. It got real close for most of it. Now what we can do is we can kind of tweak it a little bit. So we can use our zoom tool and just pick anywhere to start. Make you a nice little bounding box. And now we're going to click our nodes tool, and you see all of our clicks where we had our lines at. So now you can take these and click and drag and move them so that it's inside your territory, because you really want your border on the side that the publishers are going to be working. So you can kind of move those around. If you see I've grabbed that handle, you really don't want to grab the handle unless you want to move the angle, which you can. So you can do that, and you can grab that angle and move it so that it's more in line with the border. You can also shorten it up so it shortens or lengthens the spline. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you just kind of reposition it. Now if you want to, what you can do is you can click in a group. So if you click outside, you can click this whole group and move them all at one time, and it makes things sometimes a little bit easier. In this corner, this is a different situation, because if you see in this corner, when you move it out, it gets more pointed. So we can bring it up maybe right about there. And if we move this one up, you see how it changes the point? So it moves it right where we want it. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to keep moving around, even behind the city, and you can move these out. Because when that's the reason why we put the street level on top, so that our lines would be underneath the details. They wouldn't block the details of the map. And so we just keep going around. It really doesn't take too much time. And then pretty soon you are all done with your border. And of course you can zoom out to check your handiwork. And that's not too bad. That's your first territory. Now what we're going to do in the next video is show you how to identify the territory with our territory number on the map.